The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Welcome to The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Woldu. We had a week hiatus, but we're now back. And of course, this gentleman is back from the Calgary Stampede. Greg Buchanan, CPCA radio announcer. How's it going?
Moses, not too bad, not too bad.
You had an exciting finish out there.
Great
you
finish.
Had a great 10 days. Must have been fun. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, I have to get to this man. Mike Applegate, you are the Lloydminster Rohan Rage coach. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
It's awesome to have you on. Of course, we'll have some hockey talk in a second. But first, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about the GMC Rangeland Derby, and what a finish, too. Jason Glass, of course, was bridesmaid last year. He did finish first, but there was a penalty that was awarded to him as he bore down on Doug Irvine last year. This year, maybe a little controversy. You had Glass, he rubbed Jerry Bremner's wagon. No penalty was given, but do you think Glass won it fair and square this time around?
Well, the call is if you interfere with the wagon driver, the other wagon driver's forward progress, it is a penalty. Coming out of the infield, when you whip around the top one, you come down the bottom barrel, sometimes you do come out of lane quite, by an inch or two. For Jerry Bremner, he was out of lane more than Jason Glass was out of lane. So they did bump a little bit. Did Bremner's forward progress get impeded? I don't think so. On Friday night, Rick Fraser could have won the aggregate title, but he got a penalty. So all that happens in wagon racing. You get a penalty one time and it costs you a championship. You don't get a penalty the next time and you win a championship.
Your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, Jerry was definitely out of lane coming out of the infield. Jason comes out hard off the bottom barrel, gets a little whip, bangs into Jerry, but he doesn't bang into Jerry if Jerry's in his lane. And we've both been to tons of wagon races, and we've seen that happen, and no penalty called. And I agree with Jason winning it. As hard as it is for me to say that, no, I totally agree, and the right call was made.
Trust me, if Jason Glass got a penalty and had the Calgary Stampede title taken away for a second straight year, it wouldn't be pretty with Tommy on CBC, let's just say that.
Oh, well, there you go. Do you feel like over the last 10 days there's a story or two? Of course, you had Jason Glass, but aside from him, remarkable stories. Of course, you had a local boy. You have Jamie Labicane with the unfortunate situation about tearing his MCL and ACL, but yeah, you had Doug Irvine fill in, and he made it into the semifinal Saturday. So are there other memorable moments from the last 10 days that kind of stick out in your minds?
Oh, definitely. Jamie and Doug, that story, and how about Kelly Sutherland not even finishing in the top 16? I mean, the so-called king, and again, much to the chagrin of myself, I don't call him the king, but he doesn't even make it in the top 16. We have BJ Carey right in the middle of it until a disastrous last couple of days, days 7 and 8. A couple of penalties that cost him a shot at being actually in the top 12 if you look at the standings. So, those are the things from my standpoint that maybe stuck out a little bit.
Like for me, Jamie Labicane, great story there. Unfortunate for BJ Carey. Likely could have been in that semifinal, gets a 4-second penalty one night, takes him out of that chance for a semifinal berth, and then gets more penalties the 2 nights later, takes him out of that top 16, which is heartbreak for BJ considering the season he's had so far. The other one is Chance Vegan. Here's a rookie driver that, he's sensational outrider, one of the best in the business. A little bit cocky, but you have to be good to be cocky, and he's a little bit of both. And he almost made it to that championship dash. Give it a break or two, and this young guy that nobody expected would run with the big guys all of a sudden had a chance to win it. And Kelly Sutherland, I consider Kelly a friend, so I kind of see both sides of the story with Kelly now. But Kelly's like the New York Yankees. A lot of people show up to the New York Yankees games to boo them and to see them lose. But there's also a lot of Yankees fans out there. Don't kid yourself that. So Kelly's got a lot of fans, but there's a lot of people that want to see Kelly lose.
At the end of the day, Kelly's great for television.
He's great for television. What he did on Sunday, I think he has to get reprimanded for that.
I do want to get to the National Hockey League. Of course, free agent frenzy. You had a lot of players move, especially day one. was a record setter. But you still have a few names out there that might be serviceable for some teams. Of course, you have Mikhail Grabovski. I know he's Russian. He might go back to Russia, but you never know. You have Damian Brunner, Jaromir Jagr, Sam Gagner, Douglas Murray, Brendan Morrow. You know, you also have Wade Redden, who's still a free agent. Where do you guys, I'll give you these names that I just mentioned to you, and where do you think they'll fit? So we'll start with Grabovski. Where do you think he could go?
You know what? I don't know. After the tirade he went on, I think every GM in the league's going, geez, do I really want to sign him? He may end up in a place like Phoenix, you know, kind of out of the way, low key, you know, just depending on what Phoenix's needs are. But I think that might be the best place for him, just out of the spotlight. He definitely won't end up in Canada.
Greg, what do you think about Damian Brunner?
That's a tough one. You know, it has to be the right situation for him too, and a team that needs a player like him. I see him, you know, staying in there, going to the East, and maybe even at Tampa Bay, maybe. You know, somebody that kind of is looking for a little bit of talent.
What about Jaromir Jagr? Do you think he's still got enough?
Yeah,
guys?
I don't know. You know, watching him in the playoffs, he still has a lot of skill, but he's a slow-moving big body. He has to stay out in the East. He can't go in the West, where it's a more freewheeling kind of hockey. So he has to go in the right situation, and probably the right situation for him could be either Detroit, even, you know, or Pittsburgh.
What about Douglas Murray?
Oh boy.
Talking about slow.
Yeah. He, you know where he would fit good? I hate to say it, but Boston. I mean, that's a slow team.
Tough.
I mean, tough team. He just didn't fit Pittsburgh's style of play. You know, push the pace type of play. So, I mean, I can see him in a Boston or maybe in Florida somewhere.
What about Murray's teammate, or for half a season, Morrow, Brendan Morrow?
You know, that's a great role, kind of character player. You know where I like to see him is probably go to Edmonton. They need a little bit of leadership. They need a little bit of grit. They don't have any grit. Losing Horkoff as a good leader in the room, Morrow could replace that.
And of course, Wade Redden. Do you see him going anywhere?
I'd love to see Wade play one more year, but I mean, he's, again, a role type player. He played great in St. Louis this year. You know, I hope Wade gets another contract. I think New York put him in purgatory long enough, and teams now realize that he can still play, and he's going to be a 5, 6, 7 guy somewhere in the league. I just don't know where. Maybe Winnipeg. Just looking through things, he might be a fit in
Help some
Winnipeg.
D-men out there. I do want to get to this. What was more shocking, Bobby Ryan being traded to Ottawa or Tyler Seguin going to Dallas?
I say Seguin, but we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Like, they were talking about his maturity level in Boston, so there must have been stuff happening behind the scenes. They didn't like the way that he came prepared for the game. It didn't seem to take anything too serious. So I think Seguin, a young guy that this team gave up on, and a very young guy, and very young in his career to give up on this player. So you got to think that there's something more than what Boston's telling us.
Mike?
Well, after spending a couple days with Bruce Boudreau at Roger Nielsen's clinics, I'm going to have to say Bobby Ryan. I mean, Boudreau talked about him, and he liked the player, but I think it boiled down to, you know, needs and wants, and I think that this deal has probably been worked on for the last 3 or 4 months, and it's a surprise to me after hearing what Bruce had to say at Roger Nielsen's about Bobby Ryan. So
Probably hurts when you have so much money tied into 2 guys with Getzlaf and, of course, Perry. So that's probably going to hurt them, and that's sacrifice something. So you guys say Ottawa wins it, or at least you say Dallas does?
Yeah, I say Dallas probably wins it because, you know what, Seguin's got a great career.
Great upside.
He's got great upside. He probably has a little bit of off-ice issues they have to deal with, but, you know, that's Dallas's problem now.
All right, when we come back, we will talk about Ilya Kovalchuk and the Hockey Hall of Fame. Do you guys agree? Well, we'll see if they do. Stay tuned.